I see that many of our guests have entered the room. Welcome everybody, and thank you so much for coming. My name is Sam, and I'm a trade officer of the Israeli trade mission to the Netherlands in The Hague. And we are very proud to have brought together this group of leading companies in sustainable packaging. And as an organizational notice from our side, please make sure to write down and remember any questions you may have, because in this session, there's no time to answer your questions, unfortunately. However, you are encouraged to book meetings with the respective companies after the presentation to have all your questions answered. And more information on how to book these meetings will follow after the seminar. So having said that, let's get started. I'm looking forward to seeing all the presentations. And before kicking off today's session, here's a warm word of welcome from the commercial attaché to the Netherlands, Sweden and Denmark, Mr. Ethan Kipperstoch.
Hi, good morning, ladies and gentlemen. I'm happy to welcome you to the event, a sustainable packaging event, organized by the Israeli missions to Netherlands, Denmark, and Sweden in cooperation with the Israel Export Institute. It is the second session. The first one took place more than a month ago for Scandinavia. This time we bring 6 Israeli companies from the food packaging related subsector introducing disruptive technologies. Sustainability plays a major factor of the food chain sector. The companies are an example for the Israeli spirit of innovation. Special thanks to our team in the Netherlands, Sam and the moderator, and the manager of the session, Anita and Simon. Thank also to the team Scandinavia, Robert from Sweden and Andres from Denmark. Special thanks to Professor Raul Bino from Wageningen University and research that plays actually the role of a mentor. The Israel Export Institute, as I mentioned, Ms. Yara Shimoni, and the Foreign Trade Administration, Israeli Ministry of Economic and Industry. Special thanks to the 2 keynote speakers from the Netherlands and Israel. And if I forgot somebody, please accept my apologies. Before I hand over the virtual floor back to Sam, I would like to mention that attendees that wish to meet us, the team as well, can do it later by applying to Sam. Everyone is welcome to schedule meetings. Good luck and have a successful event. Sam, back to you.
Thank you, Ethan, for these kind words. I'd like to give the floor to Noga Sela-Shalev, actually. She's with the Fresh Start Food Tech Incubator, and she will give us an overview of sustainable packaging in food technology. So thank you, Noga. The floor is yours.
Hello, and thank you for having me. I'll just share my presentation. I hope this will work. Okay. Well?
Yeah.
Okay, perfect. So again, thanks for having me, and I'm very happy to share with you a short overview of smart packaging food technologies in Israel. So just in a word, Fresh Start is a food tech incubator. It's part of the Israeli Innovation Authority Incubator Program and is managed by 4 equal partners, 2 industrial partners, Nuva, which is Israel's leading food company, and Tempo, which is a leading beverage company. And then we have 2 financial partners, Our Crowd, which is a fund platform, and Finster Ventures, which is a specialized agriculture and food tech fund, both working globally. And we're set in the north of Israel as part of a bigger plan, if you like, of the Ministry of Economy for creating a northern agri-food cluster in the area. We've been established since January this year, and we are investing all over the value chain of food tech. So in short, this gives you a very quick snapshot of the Israeli ecosystem of agri-food. And just to really quickly go over this, because this gives a good perspective of what's going on and why Israel is becoming a food tech startup nation, is the fact that we have nearly 400 companies and counting in the agro-food field. A lot of them are early stage, meaning there's a lot of entrepreneurship going on here. Nearly 80 investors in this field in Israel, both global and local. And there's literally no multinational company today that is not in somehow connected or related to what's going on here in this field, either by having their R&D centers in this area or by other modes of collaboration, either scouting, funding, partnerships, and so on. And in the middle, what you can see here is a snapshot of the public sector support that Israel has. The government is very active in supporting the different stages of innovation, specifically in this field and in others. Our incubator is just an example of a platform for funding or supporting funding of early stage startups in this field. And the last component, which is just as important, is the academia in Israel, which is very much oriented into applicable innovation, into commercializing the innovation going on. This is also a very short snapshot. Both, by the way, are done by the Startup Nation Central Group, very supportive of innovation in Israel in general. And what you can see here is the escalation in the number of investors that are operating, foreign investors that are operating in Israel, as well as the increase in funds. And I could just share with you, globally, there is literally $18 billion invested in food tech in 2020, which is a huge increase year by year. And we see this picture as well in Israel. And when we come to the question, what makes Israel a food tech nation, there are a few components that kind of interconnect in creating this. So I guess everybody knows the story of the 6 degrees of separation, separating people worldwide from one another. Well, in Israel, there's literally 2. You can ask any person and you'll probably get by the next step to a second person. And this creates a very tight network that specifically in early stages really helps get things done and move it into a position in which funding can come in. Add to that the fact that it's a small country. There's a lack of resources, so there was a lot of innovation going on from a very early stage of the state of Israel. And this is kind of a state of mind and kind of a cultural thing. And it is also supported, as I explained earlier, by the infrastructure that the government is giving the country and the overall, I'd say, mode of operation of startups and investors and academia and all the ecosystem around it. So it's kind of a culture of both pluralism, specifically when it comes to food, and entrepreneurship. Add to that the fact that both agrotech and biotech have developed in Israel extensively in order to meet these restrictions or these limitations of resources. And when you combine both, you get a lot of food tech that is actually supported by the knowledge that was acquired up till now. And then last but not least is the fact that tech transfer generally from the academia, as I mentioned earlier, is something that was actually created first by Israel. And this whole orientation is very supportive of creating innovation in this field. This is also a snapshot of how the segmentation according to field is in Israel. And coming into the topic of this session, around 12% of the companies are in some sort of way managing smart packaging technologies. And when we talk about the different types of companies, and I know that you're going to meet a lot of them, or at least a few very good representatives of this field, like Tipa, like Yoran, like WeCycle, and others, then you can understand that there's a very wide range of what we refer to as sustainable packaging. If I try to define the landscape briefly, we can generally speak of quality and safety in terms of how to extend shelf life through packaging, how to improve the safety of the products. We talk about ecologically friendly, whether it's recycling, allowing reuse, allowing compostability, biodegradability, that type of field, and I'll dive into that specifically a bit further. And then we have food waste reduction. How do we create process efficiency through packaging? And a lot of this has to do with integrating AI or collecting big data through packaging. These 3 fields interconnect, of course, in creating the final impact that we are looking for. So this is kind of I'd say a draft of the different fields, but they are all very much related. And diving slightly into the field of eco-friendly, well, I guess it's pretty much known that over 50% of plastic waste today has to do in some way with food packaging. So this is a really big issue and a really big agenda of literally every multinational company worldwide, and it's actually becoming the number one issue to deal with. A lot of this has to do with the fact that, unlike other fields maybe, regulation here stepped in quite early, setting very challenging targets for these companies, targets that if they are unmet, they of course cause fines. And fines mean money, meaning in this world of innovation in which we need the demand, we need the technology, and we need the funds, and then usually regulation comes in. In this case, the cycle is actually driven quite dramatically towards solutions and towards looking into technological solutions for this field. And when I try to define the exact challenge of this field, I think bridging the gap may be kind of summarizing it, because we're trying to bridge the gap between industry spec and sustainable spec, and I'll explain shortly what we mean by that, while presenting a full cycle solution, offering the systems that will support the solution. So when we talk about the part of the material that we're looking for in this specific field, we need something that is food grade, meaning won't harm the food that we're packing, will be functional in terms of saving or protecting the food that we're looking to protect within the packaging in terms of barriers of light, of humidity, of air, of whatever. We want it to be very able to have the whole food chain production, distribution, and all the way reaching to the consumer. We need it to be very durable during this process. And again, we're looking to have a good appearance that will support food appeal for consumers. I usually use this example in lectures, saying sometimes when you develop a package for, I don't know, yogurt cups, you actually need to hear the snap of the two cups in order to feel as a consumer that this product is good for you. It's at this point, that's how it's really important to consumers to feel that the packaging is food appealing and answers all their requests. So this is on the side of the consumer and the food industry. And then on the other hand, now you have the need to be sustainable. The packaging has to be affordable, because we're looking at a field that the margins are very small, and the actual cost of the product should be something that literally every consumer can buy. And then it has to be accessible in terms of the sourcing of the material. So this is a very extensive list of requests or demands of any material to answer to. And this is part of the reason this field is very, I'd say, undersolved at this point. They're very much undersolved at this point. Adding to this, the fact that any solution has to address both the material, as explained, and the systems supporting the process. The collecting, the treatment, the dividing, if we're talking about recyclability, for example, and the need to answer to these two parts, while one part is usually addressed by the industry and the other part is usually addressed by the regulator providing for these systems, creates a huge need for collaboration that in many cases is very hard to get to. Add to that the fact that there are different targets for different types of treatment. Reuse and recyclability and compostability and biodegradability are different ways of treating the same problem, but in some ways they kind of overlap each other, or if you like, step on each other's toes in actually reaching the solution, because if you have a compostable product coming into a recyclable streamline, sometimes these don't match. And so there's some sort of contradicting forces on the way to reaching our overall target of creating a circular economy and creating collaborations. And I think my following keynote speaker will actually address this issue in more details. So this was a very short dive in. I hope you guys will have a very good session listening to the companies that are offering their solutions today from Israel to this field. Very interesting and very important field. And for any new technology you find or wish to dive into, we're very happy at Fresh Start to look into it and support the process. So thank you very much, and I hope you'll have a very good session today.
Thank you so much, Noga, for this very interesting perspective. And it's good to see that indeed the three fields that you mentioned, the quality safety, the eco-friendliness, and the food waste reduction are really fields that are all covered by the companies that are speaking here today. And you already bridged nicely to our next keynote speaker, Ulfert Velde van Velzen, who is a senior scientist at Wageningen University and Research Center. Yeah, so I'd like to give the floor to Ovard. And thank you again, Noga. And Ovard, the stage is yours.
Thank you. That's a good presentation. I'm going to present something slightly different. Let me start pressing this. Yes. Well, first of all, welcome. My name is Ovard van Velzen. I'm a packaging technologist and recycling expert at Wageningen Food and Bio-Based Research. I will swiftly go through what has happened the last decades. So when I was young, in '95, I started packaging research at Wageningen. And at that time, we were young, we were technologists, and we thought we could change the world. We thought about all kinds of molecules to make active, smart, intelligent, biodegradable, edible packaging, and so on and so on. And in the end, obviously, only very, very, very few reached the market. So if you look in literature, you will find thousands of articles on active, intelligent packaging. And if you look in your own supermarket, you will find none. And that's really a strong paradox between science and business at the moment. So yes, we had dreams, but very little came true. So what did actually happen? Well, economy, pandemics took another turn. Yes, intelligent packaging became mainstream on trucks and containers because of there's a lot of mistrust in the supply chains. A lot of lorries and freights went missing, and these intelligent packaging were very resourceful to end those missing lorries. Then we had the BSE crisis, the bovine crisis at the turn of the millennium, and that really speeded up the adoption of modified atmosphere packaging. Mind you, this technology had already been invented in the 60s, but it was only adapted in mass scale around 2000 in the Netherlands and most European countries, because it's more expensive, but it gives more shelf life. You have more clear cost, but less clear benefit if you do not calculate correctly. So only these benefits came apparent after the BSE crisis. At the same time, in the 90s and the noughties, we had a lot of growth in convenience products like freshly cut vegetable products that gave an enormous boost of industry. And with all these new packages, also the amount of packaging waste in the Netherlands grew rapidly. Around 2006, we got a new packaging law. The European Union demanded the Netherlands to start recycling post-consumer plastic packaging waste, and that was adopted in 2009. Roughly at the same time, plastic soup was discovered in the Pacific, and that turned the whole argument around. We had a feeling that our recycling economy was well developed, and relatively in comparison to many other countries in other parts of the world, our recycling economy of plastic packaging waste is relatively well developed. But still, the majority is still incinerated, and only a fraction is closed loop recycled, and most of it is open loop recycled. So although we spend lots of money on it, and we do our best to separately collect and recover plastic waste, our systems still are mediocre performers. So what is currently really happening? A lot of Dutch supermarkets, British supermarkets are simply abolishing plastic packages where it's possible and even where it's impossible, where you get more food waste. And here marketing rules. It's no longer about the quality of the product, it's no longer about the protection, but getting rid of plastic as fast as possible. And some silly mistakes are made there, costing a lot of environmental damage. But that's the current situation, marketing rules. So we have seen dry misting coming up, we have seen this natural branding coming up, and we also see a lot of paper-plastic combinations coming up. Some of them are very well engineered, but others contain undesirable substances like perfluorinated alkylated substances, which are persistent, and we do not want these type of substances to enter our environment for the sake of getting rid of plastics and replacing it with something that's even worse. So let's be very mindful about what we do and not just get rid of plastics and worsen the situation. So what should actually happen is to stop the export of plastic waste to countries without any waste handling infrastructure. Fortunately, our Dutch Under Minister of Environmental Affairs has made such a law, but in many other countries that doesn't exist. So still lots of plastic waste go over the ocean to Southeast Asia to enter the oceans. We also should start to redesign for recycling and solve the many dilemmas that we have here. It's not so simple to redesign for recycling. Many of these guidelines lack a scientific basis, and there are many dilemmas. There are many packages that we are used to which are not recyclable. So should we stop consuming, or should we develop new technologies? These are not easy to solve dilemmas. I'm sure that, for instance, Greenspans will discuss one of these issues today. Then we have to create aftermarkets for our recycled plastics. Our recycled plastics, as they currently are, with all the design issues that they have, are not suited to make new food packages at the moment. So we should make paint bins or waste containers from them. But not all these markets are used to taking up this plastic. So we also have to teach them how to use recycled plastic, and that it's different than virgin plastics and that you cannot compare it. This will take time. This is a cultural change. Then fourthly, we have to develop new chemical recycling technologies. There are many in the pipeline of being developed, and we expect in the coming 5 years a boom of new chemical recycling technologies, but there are still many questions unanswered. Are these technologies economic and ecologically sound? We don't know at the moment. So we're still a lot of things happening, but we're not sure where we're heading. And fifthly, we should decouple from fossil feedstock. We should stop using crude oil and stop climate change. So start using natural resources. And that is creating dilemmas. First of all, if we enter in our plastic packaging recycling system with biodegradable or compostable materials, how to keep them separate, how to sort them. It's possible in theory, but it's also possible in practice. And how should we change our sorting technologies in the recycling economy? How should we lower our plastic usage? Should we lower consumption? How can we do that? How can we do that without getting a public uprise? How can we at the same time reduce food waste generation and maintain the product quality in paper-based plastic packages? A lot of these paper-plastic combinations coming on the market, but are they truly recyclable as paper? Or do we simply transfer contaminant into the paper system? So we need a lot of new technologies for packaging, sorting, and recycling. And the positive news is that the world has changed. Now we're suddenly allowed to have more expensive packages. For instance, these paper-based packages are often 3 times more expensive than the original plastic-based packages. And still marketing loves them off supermarkets. And we're building up capacity. So there is a huge chance for new packaging technologies on our markets, and we will see rapid changes in the near future. So I would like to thank you. I hope I have inspired you to keep your plastic waste separate and throw it in the desert or in the ocean. And if you deplastify, do it wisely and don't make mistakes. Don't create more trouble by creating more food waste or creating more contaminants in the recycling system. I hope you like this, and I hope the next pictures will give us a lot of clarity of what type of technologies are here to come. I thank you very much, and I give the word back to Sam.
Thank you so much, Wilfred. Yeah, it's really encouraging to hear that you believe that there's a perspective for us. And as you mentioned, one of the companies that will be speaking today, Greenspans, is actually a company that is looking into these packaging alternatives. And I think this is therefore a good opportunity to give the stage to Amir Biran of Greenspans. By Wilfred, thank you so much. Hi, Amir.
Good morning.
Good morning. So, yeah, the stage is yours.
I listened to the last 10-15 minutes of the very interesting topic of plastic recycling and so on. And what we do is actually in quite a different space, which is, you may believe it or not, much worse than the issue of plastic. There are worse things. And let me tell you about it in just a second. I'll share my screen. Okay. So I think we all know what aerosols packages are, because we are all.
I'm sorry to interrupt, Amir.
I'm sorry?
I'm sorry to interrupt. Your screen is not shared yet.
Not shared?
No.
Okay. Let's see why. I'll do my entire screen. Can you see my screen? Sam?
Yeah, we could see it.
Now,
You could. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Oh,
Yeah, perfect. Thank you.
okay. Good. Thanks. Sorry. So we are dealing with trying to replace aerosol packages, which, as I'm sure you're all using some of them on an ongoing basis at your home, work, and so on. They are today operated, and they get the energy that they have stored in them from compressed gas, which is in 90% of the cases LPG, butane propane, if you will. And the issues with these packages are immense, because first of all, as you all know, LPG is flammable, and when you pack it in a compressed, when you compress it to pack it in an aerosol, it actually becomes also explosive. I think this is obvious. When you look at the impact of LPG, again, this is used in 90% of the aerosols today. And although people are trying to replace it, but it's an issue to replace it. The effect of LPG when it goes out to the atmosphere, as it goes without being burned, as we do with other applications where we use LPG, it has an impact on that is similar to 3 or 4 times the impact of CO2, okay, on the greenhouse effect. So that's the second issue. The third issue is that other gases as well contain chemical additives that are carcinogen and are very dangerous to human health. Because we have to use packages that can store the gas in a compressed fashion, the packages always have to be very rigid, so the entire industry is using metal, either tin plate or aluminum packages, that are always coming in a cylindrical shape and so on. The whole package makes the product in it with the package itself classified as hazardous, which is an issue with shipping and handling. And regulation is pushing towards lessening the use of aerosols. However, until we started to develop our solution, there aren't many options. Actually, there are no options to provide what an aerosol provides. And actually, aerosols they are the only mean today to provide continuous dispensing, meaning that you can press your finger on a valve or an actuator on top of a package, and as long as you press it, you get spray, foam, gel, whatever there is in the package. So the issue with the gas is that there are many issues, and the issue is to replace the compressed gas and provide a different energy source, replacing the gas to the package. And that will allow reading of all of the disadvantages of aerosols, make the package sustainable. It should be renewable, recyclable, and refillable, so that one package could be used for many times, for a long time, and many refills and times. It should not contain any additives on top of the undesired additives that are always there in the gas. Brands are adding different additives in order to make the product live well with the gas. So we want to get rid of that. Carbon footprint should be reduced significantly from where it is right now, for all the good reasons that you're well aware of. And if you can contribute to the design differentiation to the brand so that they can get rid of the cylindrical metal compressed package shape and start to distinct their product in a way that is more attractive to the people, to the consumers, that's also an advantage. Of course, rid of the gas will allow transportation to become standard. The costs of the whole thing must be reduced so that at least it's competitive with aerosols. Otherwise, with all the good things that I've mentioned, nobody will use it. And if you provide such a thing, such an energy source that replaces the gas, it will instantly relieve you from all the regulatory constraints that are being piled up on top of aerosols, slowly, but they do. What we've developed is an elastic material that you can see on the left here. It looks like a very naive sleeve, but it's far from being naive. It's made from natural material, only natural materials, and it provides high pressure, and high pressure is needed in order to replace the pressure that the gas provides you. The sleeve is mounted over a high barrier laminated eco bag that can be easily recycled and refilled. And when the bag with the sleeve around it gets filled, as you can see on the right hand side, the pressure that the sleeve implies on the bag, the inner bag, of course goes only to the center of the package, not in all directions like with gas, and provides the same user experience or consumer experience that aerosol provides. So unlike aerosols where the gas has to be stored in a cylindrical, rigid, sealed, and well-tested canister, like you see on the right-hand side, in our solution, because there is no pressure on the outer package, you can use any type of packages, soft and recyclable and so on, and the inner system inside the package, which we provide, called EcoDrive, can be refilled and reused over and over many times. So packages can be made from any materials, whether they are the existing aluminum packages that we all see, or tin plate packages we all see in the market, cardboard packages, plastic, or recycled, fully recycled plastic, as you can see in the picture here, just as examples. It is safe without any gas, provides similar, identical, I would say almost, consumer experience like aerosols. Can be made, the package can be made from any material, and it's competitive to aerosol packages price. That's in a nutshell.
Perfect. Thank you so much. Thank you so much, Amir. Yeah, it's a very interesting solution, and it surely, yeah, it's very much in line with what Ulfar told us earlier. Smart packaging, and yeah, it's really a change in the way of thinking about packaging in general. And thank you so much.
Thank you.
Next up is Joseph from Recycle. They have a very interesting plastic alternative. Joseph, could you come up to stage, please? Hi, Joseph. Okay, good to have you here.
Thank you for having me. I will share my screen. I hope that it will work because it didn't work last time.
Yeah, we see it.
Yeah? Okay.
Yeah, definitely.
Okay, thanks.
Perfect. Thank you.
So, good afternoon, everybody. My name is CTO of Recycle. We developing and selling eco-friendly product, mainly from the paper industry. Okay, so we all know the problem here. So the plastic is a very, very amazing material, but it's very hard to get rid of it, and it's very hard to control it. Basically, we today have a very good solution of making a plastic, but it's very hard to recycle 350 million ton per year. 40% of this 350 million ton is for the food industry, for the packaging. Not food, but packaging generally. We only recycle 9% from this amount of plastic. And if we dive inside, so only 3% is really recycled. The rest cannot be recycled. I mean, we collect only 9%. The recycled material, most of it, we're making chairs. I know that we have also making bottles, but it's eventually more chairs and then bottles, and basically we're moving the problem to our children. So although we are 2021 and we're recycling more than I think 80 years, we could not reach more than that, and it's a big problem. Probably it's very hard to recycle and collect everything. So how can we basically do otherwise? I mean, we have plastic, it's a very good material. What we can do? So the solution where we see it is based on three things. It's supposed to be an eco-friendly material. It's supposed to be cost-effective, of course, and it should be the same product and work the same. And three things like that, it sounds very small, but it's very hard to get because, as we told, plastic is a very good material, and you have to basically get to a position that you get another material that will be rigid and bear the temperature that you need, and of course will be liquid proof. That's where we go in, and that's where we basically made a new material that we call it Super Pulp. Super Pulp is basically a liquid proof fibers, and it's has a very unique characteristics. Basically, it's liquid-proof oil and water liquid-proof. You can cook up to 270-degree food inside. It has no coating, and it's a home compostable material. Of course, all the certification is in place for this for the super pulp. The omniphobic ability of super pulp is a very unique property. Basically, you can put any food inside a container and it will act as plastic, but eventually it is one layer material, and you can throw that into the compostable bin. The material is, of course, as I told, can go from -40 to 270, and eventually, because it's a monolayer, it's a cost-effective material. The marketing that we aim in the super pulp material is the food manufacturers like Unilever and Nestle, and that looking for reducing plastic and change the plastic in their packaging. Also, we are working with the catering world, the heavy catering mainly, institute like schools, hospitals, and so on, and of course the airline and restaurant that use a lot of takeaway plastic packaging. So where we, as WeCycle, see the world and go forward, we basically know that we are going with the fiber, with the pulp fiber material, and we developing here in our labs new materials that will be the ability to go to high barrier material and moisture barrier material. And for that, we doing a lot of research, and we getting to the position that the development should be at the end on our three legs that we believe in, that cost effective, that will be eco-friendly, and of course that will be with a property that today people using packaging. That's it. That's who we are.
Well, thank you very much, Joseph. Yeah, it seems like a very interesting alternative to plastic. Yeah, and I'm sure that lots of companies here find it relevant and will be interested in speaking with you. Yeah, so thank you again. Next up is Shai from ROP. They offer well, modified atmosphere sustainable packaging. So Shai, welcome. I welcome you up to stage.
Thank you for inviting me.
No problem. Thank you for coming. Yeah, we're very interested in hearing your solution, and I'm looking forward to your presentation.
Can you see my screen?
Yeah, we can definitely.
Okay, very good. So we're looking at the plant of ROP up north in Israel. ROP is a privately owned, vertically integrated company in the business of manufacturing of flexible packaging, with 2 production facilities in Israel and the Czech Republic, distribution network in North America and Western Europe, and few potential customers in the Far East. We hold a profound experience in polymer engineering and post-harvest, and we put the 2 together for the benefit of our customers. The way we look at I'm very much related to Olford presentation. We're looking at the environment responsibility as our responsibility, and we approaching it from 2 angles. The first one is reduction of food waste. And the other one, although we're in the packaging business, we're looking to reduce the amount of packaging used, and we'll elaborate on that in a very short moment. Just one statement that I'd like to make here is that fresh produce always make it to the cashier in bags. So we better use the right bag to protect the product. We cannot avoid it altogether. As a foundation, I'd like to put here a couple of axioms. First, absolute freshness is a state that the produce is in at the moment that it is harvested. The negative point is that from this point on, the produce begins to deteriorate. This process is irreversible. But the good thing is that using the right post-harvest protocol and packaging, we could dramatically slow down this process and thus reduce waste. At ROP, we use the 5-pillar strategy towards environmental responsibility in fresh produce marketing. The first thing would be preserving the freshness and reducing waste. Then packaging selection, which I'll talk about briefly, that is suitable to protecting the produce within. Then reduce the packaging to the minimum required, not to use what you don't need to, what you don't have to. Then material selection for those with the least harmful impact. And when we talk about it, we would like also to look at the general view, so not to use materials that will down the line increase, for example, food cost in poor areas. That's a point to take into consideration. And then developing of biodegradable or compostable packaging, of course. So understanding fresh produce is the fundamental to be able to develop the right packaging for the product, and we are holding expertise in this area. It all starts in our R&D center in Israel. From there, it grows out to growers, to shippers. We're collaborating with research centers. One other point is that the packaging developed is produce specific, and it's designed to preserve the freshness or the absolute freshness taste till the consumer to enjoy. So not only to the port of entry, not only to the supermarkets, but all the way to the consumers to enjoy. There is an example here for a selection of packaging type. So what you can see here on the right is different materials, different properties for the materials. Some of them have different gas composition in it. It all based on the natural respiration of the product and the specific barrier that the liner provides. And as you can see here in the center, packaging that has a very good anti-fog properties and the right gas composition to preserve the chlorophyll level and slow down deterioration of this broccoli, while at the top, nice view, good anti-fog properties, but the gas composition inside is probably not ideal, and therefore the product turns yellow. On the left here, you can see a regular, the yellow broccoli, a regular polyethylene bag that is used commercially versus the alternative modified atmosphere, modified humidity packaging that was developed by ROP and preserved the freshness of the product. We're looking at the different levels. We're looking to reduce waste at the store level. And as you can see here from these quotes, bananas are the biggest food waste culprit. On one study, amazing 1.4 million edible bananas being thrown away each and every day. And we do have the solution for that. So on the left here, we're looking at bananas with no bags, 10 days after ripening process, or a regular bag that kind of reduce the weight loss of the banana. It's not as shriveled as the banana without the bag, but the deterioration process already started, and you can see that the bananas in the center in the regular polyethylene bag looks worse than those that are in the right atmosphere. The picture on the right was taken at my home earlier this week, And I can tell you that they were both packed at the same time, no bag at the top. My kids won't eat it, as much as I can try to convince them that it's tasty and good and healthy, but it's not appealing presentation. And those that were packed in the right bag are perfectly in shape and presentation. The same applies for various crops, in this case kale, that is sold in big quantities in Spain in our packaging. We have a collaboration with a Dutch company. That's another point that we're looking into, is to reduce the amount of packaging by reducing the film gauge. In this case, a machine developed by a Dutch engineer called BrimaPack was designed to protect those round produce items, round and near round. Like broccoli is not perfectly round, but we can still do pack broccoli, and we can also pack bananas in this machine. And the film is super thin. It will be, instead of a regular 30 to 40 to 50 micron in gauge of a regular plastic bags for produce, this we're looking at 12 to 15 micron in gauge. And therefore, we can still protect the product, but by using this machine and using this film, we've reduced the amount of packaging by 60 to 70%, even more. The other aspect is the material used. We're focusing on cast polypropylene and cast polyethylene and avoiding those materials or raw materials that are less beneficial or harmful to the environment, like BOPP or polyamide, and of course PVC and polystyrene, and the laminates that are pretty much impossible to recycle. We also are looking at biodegradable films. We're looking for ideas in this area. We are developing in-house with our polymer engineer, and we have quite good success in this direction. The production facility has all the certification needed, all the standards, including BRC and HACCP. We're looking for partners to grow together, distributors to expand our sales in the Netherlands, and collaboration in the area of packaging innovation and development. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much, Shai. Yeah, it's very interesting to see how you tackle the problem of reducing food waste. Yeah, thank you for your great presentation. And I hope you'll find your partners in the Netherlands.
Thank you very much.
On stage, Avital has joined us. Avital of TIPA Corp. Yeah, and you have a very interesting solution that is a compostable packaging. And we're looking forward to your presentation. So the floor is yours.
Thank you so much, Sam. My name is Avital, and I represent TIPA's marketing department. It is my pleasure to be here to represent TIPA, an innovator and developer of fully compostable, flexible packaging. So let me share my screen and start the presentation. So TIPA was established 10 years ago as a response to the global plastic waste crisis. Until now, over 8 billion metric tons of plastics have been produced. Most of them still around us today in form of non-biodegradable plastic waste. Just think about all the single-use plastics that surround us every day and that are used only once prior to being discarded. It was already briefly discussed that only a very small percentage of plastic waste gets recycled. If we're speaking about total rigid and flexible plastic waste, so we get the recycling rate of 9%. But if we speak only about flexible packaging, flexible plastics, their recycling rate is even lower. For example, it reaches around 4% only in the UK. Hence, most of this non-biodegradable plastic waste is either destined to be sent to landfills, end up in open environments and oceans where it heavily pollutes our environment, natural habitats, and contributes to climate change, or it is incinerated, none of these waste treatment methods being a sustainable one. And so we've got this huge and growing flexible packaging market with no viable end-of-life solutions. Well, at least until recently. It is estimated that the consumption and production rates of plastic will grow and will actually triple over the next 3 decades. So if we are already dealing with a plastic crisis, just imagine what will happen in the next 3 decades if no viable alternative solution is found and adopted. And so having all that in mind and being inspired by the nature, which already invented perfect packaging, nature's packaging, just like this orange peel, will fully biodegrade and return back to Earth, turning into a resource instead of waste. Having that in mind, we developed a fully compostable, high-end, flexible packaging that mimics the positive properties of conventional plastics, such as high transparency, and you can see that the product inside the stand-up pouch is fully visible. Durability, shelf life and shelf stability. Our packaging will not biodegrade on the shelf and it will not biodegrade on your product without composting conditions. Printability. We use compostable inks and we offer compostable printed solutions. Machinability. Our packaging works with existing machinery, so there's no need to invest into uncommon or expensive machinery. Heat sealability. All our packaging is heat sealable. And barrier properties. We offer a variety of films and laminates with different moisture and oxygen barriers and properties. And so besides all these positive qualities and properties similar to those of conventional plastics that we as consumers are all accustomed to, our packaging has a huge advantage of being fully compostable, of having a sustainable end of life, just like organic waste. So how does it work? Well, in this scheme, you can see how one of our packages, in this case, a zipper bag, produced from our home compostable TIPA 302 film, which also features a home compostable zipper. Once placed in compost under composting conditions of high heat, high humidity, and oxygen, breaks down into small particles that are then eaten and digested by bacteria and microorganisms and turned into organic matter, water, CO2, and nutrient-rich biomass, or in other words, compost that can be returned back to Earth and used to nourish degraded and eroded soils. And so in this scheme, you can see how TIPA offers a fully circular solution for circular economy. So our packaging contains plant-based content. We use only fully compostable polymers for the production of our films and laminates. And here at this point, we can already meet you. So if you are a converter, we can provide you with reels of unprinted films or laminates. If you are a co-packer, we can provide you with printed reels. If you are a brand, we can provide you with custom-made, pre-made packaging, from stand-up pouches to resealable bags, zipper bags, open bags, gusseted bags, and so on, manufactured according to your requirements in terms of type of packaging, thickness, printing, barrier required, and so on. And once the packaging is no longer needed, once it served its purpose, it should be disposed of together with your organic waste, ideally into compost, where it will fully biodegrade in under 6 months, returning back to the earth, closing the loop, and allowing it all to start again. And so I'd like to share a few examples of our films and laminates and pre-made packaging. So we offer a variety of materials, compostable materials, starting from a single-ply film, such as this transparent TIPA 302 home compostable film, which is perfect for packing non-food, such as fashion, as well as frozen and chilled food and fresh produce, and to complex multi-layer laminates, such as our LAM 106, a 3-ply metallized laminate that has a high moisture and oxygen barrier and therefore is suitable to pack all kinds of dry food, including tea, powder, dry fruits and nuts, and so on. And so here you can see an example of our pre-made packaging. In this case, it's an open wicketed bag that we are producing for the Waitrose organic retail chain in the UK. As you can see, they're packing their organic bananas in these wicketed bags that are home compostable. Here are a few more examples of our packaging, in this case made from compostable laminates and intended to pack various types of dry food. as well as different types of our packaging used to pack frozen and chilled meat, tea, and bakery products. Here you can see just a small part of our customers and partners from across different sectors of the food industry, as well as the non-food sector. We were thrilled to follow industry leaders commit to using only sustainable packaging by 2025, and we see more and more brands following their lead. And at TIPA, we're more than happy to help these brands, these companies, to bring more sustainability into their supply chain, to help you bring more sustainability into your supply chain by adopting compostable packaging, by going compostable, and turning your packaging into resource instead of a waste. And so I would like to conclude by sharing TIPA's vision, which is something that motivates and inspires us every day. We truly believe that flexible packaging should be part of our organic waste. It should decompose and fully go back to nature, just like nature's packaging does. And at TIPA, we made sure that if you choose our packaging, you will not need to compromise nor on sustainability, nor on the quality of packaging. And so I would like to thank you very much for your attention, and I kindly invite you to get in touch with us either via SAM, or you can visit our website, tipa-corp.com, visit our product catalog, read more about our innovative solution, innovative alternative to plastic packaging that is environmentally friendly. So thank you very much and have a great day.
Thank you so much, Avital, for your interesting presentation. It seems that your solution really would be applicable for many companies in different stages of their packaging process. So I'm sure that there's many people here who are interested in getting in touch with you. So thanks again. Now I'd like to give the floor to Danny from Avigent Sensors, who's tackling the food sustainability problem from a different perspective. So Danny, the floor is yours, and good luck.
Thank you very much. Do you hear me well?
Yeah, we definitely do.
Okay, put the presentation in a minute. First of all, I want to thank you for this very professional organized sessions. And I think the presentation of Noga from Fresh Start puts in a real good perspective what's happening in Israel in the food tech or agri-food tech industry, which is not obvious at all. Can you see my presentation?
I think you have to retry maybe, Danny.
Try again. Done now?
Yes, we see it now.
Sam, can you see it?
Yes, we can see it now. Thank you.
Okay, so thanks again for the opportunity. I'm Danny from Avigent Sensors. We're located in northern part of Israel. There are a lot of companies in northern part of the country, which is good, which is nice. We need this boost going on in the northern part of the country. And we're 30 people, and we have a major office in North America, and our CEO is actually located in North America. So what agents? We basically help our clients, which is mostly the retailers and their suppliers, to increase sales and reduce costs. And reduce cost, of course, embeds waste management, reducing waste, but the name of the game is improving the freshness management. I'll put emphasis on the word freshness because it's all about freshness. And if you manage it correctly, you gain a lot. So freshness sensor is actually becoming a very standard retail tool, and it supports various topics and issues from waste reduction. It helps stores associates manage the inventory much better. It would guarantee freshness, and at the end of the day, gain customer loyalty and uplift sales. Today, when we talk about freshness and waste reduction, we need to see it from the angle of the customer and it all ends up at customer experience. When customer experience is good, then you gain everything. And I'm not talking only about business or uplifting sales, but also in terms of waste reduction and the care we're putting and the focus we're putting right there. There's a quote from Sergey, which is the CEO of X5, and he's personally involved. We have a lot of CEOs involved in our technology, and Sergey is mentioning that the implementation of food freshness sensor is a breakthrough towards new standards of freshness. A little bit observations from the COVID. Some of you mentioned it, but I think that we need to put emphasis here because it changed our lives in few ways and manners that increased demand for online. People avoid going to the supermarkets, to the groceries. It increased the ready-to-eat meals specifically because it's kind of an alternative going out to restaurants. It was an emerging market before the ready-to-eat meals because you know, people are busy. They want to take their lunchbox to work, or they want to, you know, just warm up the meal at home. The most important thing is the consumer is much more aware for freshness and quality. Going into that, what is a real-time freshness monitor? It's actually TTI. TTI is time temperature indicator. It's been in the market for a long time. If you Google TTI, you'd find various solutions in the market. Our solution, you know, what's unique about our solution, it's small, it's visual, and it's very cheap. It's coming from the printing. We put our 22 patents into the printing industry, and we are managing to produce a sensor that fulfills a specific requirement from our retailer or food producer when he's indicating, I need a sensor to monitor, to mimic 5 days at 5C. We know how to do it very good. Where does it go once we, and on the left side you see an example of a sensor, and I'll show more examples because there's a variety of ways. It's all about printing, and we can design anything that the customer would like to and include in the sensor. We're going into the supply chain. This is very easy to explain why we need temperature control sensors in the supply chain. We use it at the various stores for the associates as they are able to rotate the products in the stores. We have the date codes, but the date code does not mimic the real condition in which the product was kept in. Date code is only statistic, while the sensor indicates precisely what happened to the product during a specific session. And it reduces associate levels because all he needs to see is the change in color, and then he can rotate it specifically. What we see now, and I'll talk about the big launch that we're having in various parts of the globe, it empowers the consumers because they can see with their own naked eyes the transparency. We're transparent and we see, yeah, this is fresh, and you gain dramatic customer loyalty here, which at the end of the day will uplift sales as well. Here are some examples of products that would need monitoring, and again, it could be from production through the supply chain to the distribution center to the stores, in the stores, and consumer facing. It's the full spectrum. So you see produce, you see bakery, you see meat, you see the dairy, and you see the online. I mean, products that are being shipped online. You want to get it to the customer, to the client, and tell them, listen, look at the sensor. It was kept in the real good condition it was meant to be kept with. Here's some examples. We even go to, on the right side, you see the floral. We even go to the floral, and you could put in, you can enter anything you wish. And what happens is the color would gradually change from a specific color when it's fully fresh till it deteriorates, and it should be discarded from the shelf and not to be used. Ready-to-eat meals is a very emerging market indeed, and we see it all over the retailers. There's many companies are dealing with ready-to-eat meals, and whether it's being shipped to the client at almost freezing temperature or at 4 or 5 C, still you need to show the exact session in which and how it was kept and how was it shipped, and the client will know what to do with it. I'll show you it in the next slide. We're talking about low temperature, but we also deal with hot temperature. I don't know when was the last time any of you went to the supermarket and took a roasted chicken off the shelf. These are hot shelves, and the temperature range here is about 65 C, and it should be kept for 3.5 hours. This is more or less the time and temperature should be kept. And more retailers are really putting tough restrictions around it, and want to make sure that the store associates puts it off the shelf after 3.5 hours or sells it in a discount. And here are some examples. This goes to a big German retail in which you could see a starting point. It was designed specifically for 65 C, 3.5 hours. You see a starting point. This is the starting point, and this is the end point. And at both, it helps the store associates and the consumer to make sure that he's taken. You could put a discount here and not throw it away and sell it instead of $9 at $5. But the transparency of freshness is there. This is the biggest campaign going on right now in Russia to 900 stores, ready-to-eat meals. The CEO is personally involved with that. We're launching 38 SKUs. We're starting with 450 stores to go to 900 and 10 million sensors. There's a huge marketing campaign around it. I'll be glad to share it with any of you, because you need to educate the consumer what is a freshness sensor. It's not there yet. Here you see an example of Avigent sensor on a ready-to-eat meal. And we also have an app. It's in beta, in which you can take a picture of the sensor, and it would give you the remaining shelf life of a specific product. Of course, it's important for the consumer. It's also important for the retailer, as it could go up to the supply chain, and you can collect the data. We provide the app and the dashboard, and the retailer or the food producer can integrate into it. It's very easy to start a pilot or to test our sensors. We have an activation machine that activates the sensors. You can try it on a specific category and move it forward, put KPIs around it, and when the client is happy, you could go to a full rollout. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much for this interesting presentation, Danny. I think especially the last bit that you mentioned is a very interesting development for getting insights in the supply chain. Yeah, so thank you so much for this interesting presentation. Now Iran will take the stage from Uran Imaging, and yeah, I'm looking forward to your interesting presentation.
Thank you, Sam. Hello, everyone. Okay, do you see well the presentation?
Yes, we can. Yes, we
Great.
can.
So hello, everyone. My name is Eran. I'm the CEO of Uran Imaging, and we are experts in thermal imaging. Now, thermal imaging is not the standard thing to go into food industry or the sustainable packaging, but it mostly is being used for night vision, to see the heat, to see the things that our eyes cannot see. But what we found out is that when you go into the heat sealing arena, and most of the packages are being packed in the heat seal packages, there is no control of the process, meaning, for example, here we see an image of a milk carton. You can see the milk is going into the cartons, they are running in the line, but there is no control on the process. The way it is controlled today is someone taking 1 year products and just in a very primitive way throwing it on the ground, stepping on it. That is the only way to make sure if it's well sealed or not. There is no technology to test it, and there is no data, and there is no feedback. So we can all imagine how much waste is being done during the production line when such a process is not controlled and it's in an open loop without a feedback. So what we want to do, we want to change the industry in that approach. We want to introduce the Industry 4 to this arena. Another important thing, this is the major bottleneck today of production line, and we can improve the production rate. We know that today the timing is excellent because the major industries are leading the change towards a fully recyclable packages, and everyone is aware for the need of reducing waste, reducing plastic, reducing aluminum, and improving the process. The industry is huge, it's a blue ocean, it's not just the food industry, it's also the cosmetics, the pharma, the medical device, the consumer goods. Everything that is packed today, it's mostly by heat, and it's, as I said, it's in an open loop, it's uncontrolled, it's generating a huge amount of waste because there is no data and no control on this critical process. So we introduce into this arena our technology where we are experts in, which is thermal imaging. We can connect cameras that can sensor the heat and generate a very high level, a high resolution image with high sensitivity to heat. And they can see the patterns of the ceiling. Everything goes in our control cabinet. We can apply AI in real time in a passive way without interfering in the process, and making a decision in real time which product is well sealed, which one is not. The one that is not will be rejected, will not reach the market, will not endanger the customer, will not endanger the brand name of the company. And also when we see a trend in the process, we will stop the process, we will alert on time, and by that we will reduce dramatically the waste. You can see here an example of a tube. You can see the top level is where it is sealed. You can see in the naked eye what can be seen. It's under the thermal camera in real time, in line. And you can see what can be seen in a thermal image, a fully passive thermal image just by looking at the heat that is generated from the process. We can see the sealing line. We can see the cream inside the tube. We can see the regions where the cream has reached the sealing lines. And this is an information that is very critical to keep the high level of the performance of the process. If we see that it should be rejected. If there is a trend, we will stop the line. And all this data will be generated in a very friendly way through our dashboards to the QA and the line managers. Another thing you can see here is the pouch, a flow pack pouch with 3 seals, 2 horizontal, 1 vertical. Again, goes under a thermal camera, in line, goes into a, this is a thermal image. You can see the 2 horizontal sealing lines, vertical one. You can see it has a very unique pattern that we can monitor, and we can see if it degrades. You can see here an example of sachets. Sachets with the cream, it can be a medical, can be cosmetic, can be a food. And you can see here, well, the sealing lines. You can see the cream inside because it's colder than the other hot sealing lines. And you can see even some cream entering the sealing line. So this is where we will tell the customer you have a problem, and we'll also show him where is the problem. So he can tune it as he's ongoing with the production line without stopping and without generating products that later on will need to be thrown away and generate waste. So we see ourselves as gatekeepers by preventing from different products from reaching the market. We can reduce this amount of this unsealed products in over 90%. We alert on time when there is a trend in the process so we can reduce the waste. We also increase the productivity because we can alert on time and reduce the stop or the amount of times that you need to stop the line. And we also reduce the waste over 90%. By generating the data, we can enable also to go into new fully recyclable sustainable packages because we generate a very important data. You can see here an example of this data. You can see how this is how a dashboard looks like. You can look at the time scale you want. This is a night shift. You have here over 24,000 products. You can compare the same night shift with 2 lines or even 2 products. Let's say one is a full recyclable package and one is a standard package. You can see the performance. You can see exactly how it is, when it was stopped, what was done to improve it. You can study the root cause of every problem, and by that you can reach a very high level performance. And even you can take a new product, a new laminate that should be fully recyclable, and bring it to the high level of a product that is existing today. So this is a fully data, industry 4 level data that can be used for a new generation of sustainable packages. We are located today in the leading food companies today in Israel. Some of them have also multinational, there are multinational companies like Nestle and PepsiCo. We also entered the pharmaceutical companies and the medical companies. And we are integrated in the world leading today machinery like Shida, Bosch, TNA, which today lead the industry in the food manufacturers. So we can look for OEM cooperation with machine manufacturers. So the next generation of them will have your one inside with all the advantages of closed loop monitoring. The return of investment is very easy to show because we increase the productivity, we reduce the waste, we reduce the complaints from the market. So it's very easy for us to show in any study case that we are doing today that we have a very easy return of investment. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Iran, for your interesting presentation. It's really great to see this solution that is basically an Industry 4.0 enabler. And yeah, with your presentation, our sustainable packaging event is nearly concluded. So thank you again. And before closing, I'd like to remind you to please reach out to me if you want to receive the presentations and a recorded version of today's seminar. As you might have seen, my email address is in the general chat, and we will send you some more information on how to book meetings with your companies of interest. And please note that 1 week from now, my colleague Simon will host an event about alternative proteins. And here speakers of Israeli companies will come that will present their solutions to tackle the protein transition problem. And you are all cordially invited to attend this event too. Now I'd like to give the floor to Eitan Cooperstoch to do some final closing words. Thank you.
Thank you everybody for interesting presentations, very professional. We learned that packaging is not only material related issues, but influence actually the whole food chain supply process, from production lines of fresh and processed food to the last step of logistics, actually from the field to the end customers. As mentioned by Sam, we have in 1 week from now, we have another session about alternative proteins. It will be nice for you to understand and to learn about the Israeli technologies in this field. Both sessions are introduction to the physical B2B event that will take place hopefully already this year after the Corona era. Thank you so much for everybody.